You're listening to the Rush Limbaugh Show on 1150 WTBR.
Now 6 months old, of not asking about sexual orientation in the enlistment procedure will continue.
Good day, Mr. and Mrs. America, Ms. America, Miss America, Master America, and all the ships at sea. And because of the wonder of radio shortwave to all corners of the planet Earth, this is the Rush Limbaugh Show. Robert K. Dornan, one each type congressman from Orange County, Southern California, sitting in on the bridge in the skipper's chair for the great one. And what a day we're going to have. As Walter Cronkite used to end his docudrama shows, You Are There, he would say, what kind of a day was it? A day like any other day, a day that illuminates our times. Well, do we have an array of guests set up for you today, tomorrow, and Thursday? We're going to have Bob Dole later in the day. As I promised yesterday, we have Professor Walter Williams of the great George Mason University out in Northern Virginia. He is capable, in my estimation, of talking about anything. I've been watching the hearings of all the chiefs of our military services trying to explain that the word cohesion in military jargon simply means effectiveness. That's the hearings over in Sam Nunn's Armed Services Committee on the House side. Meanwhile, don't know what's going to happen on my side in my Armed Services Committee on the Southern or House side of the Hill. In a few moments here, we're going to have Larry Kudlow. He is the Senior Managing Director and Chief Economist of Bear Stearns. Maybe later in the week we can get a former Bill Clinton supporter, Barton Biggs, who's on the cover of Forbes magazine saying, quote, Barton Biggs, we want to get our clients' money as far away from Bill and Hillary as we possibly can. The president is a negative for the U.S. market. I'm embarrassed that I voted for him and contributed money to his campaign. That's the cover of the great financial journal founded by balloonist Malcolm Forbes. We are going to be discussing with Larry Kudlow the skills of the Speaker of the House in grabbing off IPOs, that's initial public offerings of hot stocks. As it says on the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal today, opening line, as stock market watchers, we've long had a healthy respect for anyone who can beat the averages, so we could not help but be drawn at the Wall Street Journal to a recently published account of the astonishing, that used to be a science fiction magazine, astonishing financial acumen of Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Tom Foley. Let me tell you this whole story about Tom and stocks and everything. What I resent, what seems to be the hurt on my side of the aisle in our cloakroom, Tom, my distinguished colleague from the great state of Washington, seems a little uptight about all of his success, and it cuts us off from discussing with him in the halls, hey, Mr. Speaker, what's hot today on the stock market? Can you help me out? The truth is, I don't own any stocks and bonds, and I'll tell you why. When I came to Congress in 1977, I thought you had to divest of yourself of all of those kind of investments, because never would you realize in any vote of the thousands of votes that you'd make over several years that one of them might be benefiting some stock or some business. So I guess that's why I'm 12th from the bottom in assets and debts, followed immediately below me by Bachelor Barney Frank. I don't know what he does with my money, but I know where mine goes. 2 mortgages, 9 grandkids, and 5 grown kids that are still trying to make it out there in a tough world. We're also going to talk about the post office scandal and the biggest story of this week, this day, last month, the massive tax increase trying to work its way through the United States Senate. How is the squandering of Clinton's political capital yesterday on the homosexuals in the military, how is that going to help him lead other Democrats off the edge of Lover's Leap, diving off the suicide cliff of this tax deal that is absolutely, by every historical and financial indicator, going to drag out the recession, deepen the recession, push up unemployment rolls? How can it possibly help? Or as that questioner in San Diego asked Bill Clinton, name one country in the history of civilization that advanced its economy by taxing and spending. And he changed the subject and said, I feel your pain. Well, make no mistake about it, he thinks he has lifted the ban. That's his take on it yesterday on the military. And we're going to torture you. I don't know if Rush does this, but we're going to torture you with what's called in the biz a cliffhanger. We are not going to discuss homosexuals in the military. Notice I don't use the word happy, cheerful, or gay to refer to any class of Americans. That's propagandizing and telling young people we are happier and more cheerful than your average little teddy bear. I will use the medical word homosexuals, but homosexuals in the military will be discussed not for an hour and a half because it isn't the only story of the day. And in the long run, whether or not this man is already, as my wife said, pointing to his picture in the paper this morning, my Sally with an IE says, honey, this is a lame duck already. I'm looking at a lame duck as he's giving one of those cripple salutes to an audience of senior NCOs and chaplains. The paper pointed out today the audience was filled with military chaplains. What's their take on all this? They're not allowed to appear before Sam Nunn's committee. They're not allowed to appear before the House committee. But that salute, is he a lame duck? And if he is, it won't be this social issue. It may be some other social issues. It may be, in the end, Jocelyn Elders or Donna Shalala, or the fact that he's on the hard left on the social issues. But in the end, it's going to be the economy and the tax bill. It will be scandals with his dinosaur, old bull, Cardinals, all the names we have for the chairman in the House. The Cardinals of the House coming down. That may be, in the end, what makes Clinton and Rodham Clinton lame ducks. So let's take a break, and we already have Larry on the phone. I was going to take a break. Mr. Kudlow, are you there, sir?
Hi, Bob.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. When you pop up on one of the Sunday Talking Head shows or during the week or on Nightline, I really drop whatever I'm doing and stop trying to listen and read at the same time, because I really appreciate the clarity with which you approach a subject. It can be a little difficult for your average, hardworking, blue-collar, or younger white-collar, tax-paying American. Can I ask you just one opening question? Capital gains. Why is it so important, and why do we play so many games with it in the House and the Senate?
Well, capital gains is an issue where it really cuts to the heart of American future prosperity. We want to encourage people to take risks and invest their hard-earned capital, their hard-earned dollars, into new projects. And in order to do that, we've got to make it worthwhile. There has to be a good reward for the investor. The investor could be a small investor putting in $500 or $1,000, or it could be a larger investor, or it could be somebody with a great idea who passes the hat amongst their family and friends and in-laws. But in order to have people invest, we need the best possible after-tax return if the investment pays off and reaps a profit, which is called a capital gain. And this is a situation where the rhetoric in the Washington debate is terribly misleading. This is not something that helps rich people. This is something that helps people that aren't already rich, but who wish to prosper and succeed, or simply people who have no interest in money, frankly, but just have a great idea that might help a lot of Americans. And if you go back to some of the greatest inventions of the last 100 years, you could go back to Henry Ford, who started out as a poor person, or Thomas Edison.
His father was a dirt farmer, was he not, Ford's father?
That's correct. Or you can go to the modern times, the story of some of these computer wizards, Steve Jobs and others. These are people that have a great idea that can benefit all of mankind, and they just have to attract some money.
Yeah.
And instead of putting our money in a bank account, which is a very safe and secure, or a 3% treasury bill, which is safe and secure, we need to induce people by providing a good after-tax reward to take a risk. It's that simple.
Well, when somebody takes a risk and passes the hat with the family and gets that money together and invests in the stock market, that's been part of American life for way over a century plus. With this Tom Foley story, and it's a little early in the story breaking because although it broke on the Roll Call magazine, which is an in-house publication a couple of weeks ago, now there's a big full story by Glenn Simpson on page 810 of the Wall Street Journal and an editorial in the Journal on the same page. What is your just early take on Tom's astonishing success, as the Wall Street Journal calls it?
Well, I don't know the facts of this, and frankly, I'm not an attorney. I don't know the legalities of this. I do not wish to prejudge Mr. Foley,
nor I,
one way or another as to the legal issue. I do, however, feel that all voters and taxpayers need to assess a more general and equally important issue, and that is, can we have our public officials in office behaving as private investors or private people in business? I think it's a decision the country needs to make.
Right on. That would apply also to whether any of the cardinals of the House get roped into this post office scandal, that there seems to be an inevitable problem. I guess it goes back to Lord Acton saying power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. When someone is never in danger of losing his committee chairmanship, never in danger of losing his House or Senate seat, that the erosion of time takes a toll on these people as they begin to think, and this is a good impulse, about their families, about their financial portfolio, about leaving something to their loved ones. They begin to slide all those ethical perceptions away. And don't you agree that the post office scandal, everything else just screams out for term limits?
Yeah, I think term limits is really the key policy issue here. I feel that we need to try to hark back to an American tradition, a Jeffersonian tradition, where we encourage people to engage in public service, including elected office, but we do not encourage them to make a full career of it.
And you know, Benjamin Franklin used a very simple word. He called it rotation. We use that word all sorts of. We use it in sports all the time. We use it in the military. Rotate troops overseas. Benjamin Franklin said, "What's wrong with rotating back into the employer class? The concept that the elected person is the public servant, and the employer is the taxpayer." We've got to take a break, Larry. When we come back, could you give us your take, as of today, on the massive tax deal with very little spending until way out years, which never happens? Give us your take on that when we come back from this break. Okay.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Speaking of CompuServe, folks, there's a new forum. You know, the movie Jurassic Park has created a rage in dinosaurs and that era. There's now a dinosaur forum on CompuServe called Go Dino. That's all, you just type Go Dino. It's operated by the Dinosaur Society, which is a non-profit organization dedicated to funding research and education on dinosaurs. And this forum on CompuServe, this is a great example of what CompuServe is. In addition to all the electronic mail and research gathering apparatus that it is, and communications that it is, this dinosaur forum is going to be a major source of information on dinosaurs. This is an example of the education value of CompuServe, and it's a great way for your kids to get involved with it and learn computers. There's also a big contest, a great dinosaur trivia contest and giveaway online, weekly drawings for 300 prizes. Grand prize is a dinosaur dig for 2 in Colorado. Call 800-621-1253 and get CompuServe now. It's $8.95 a month, basic rate, 800-621-1253.
Rush Limbaugh golfers, call 800-224-7888 and join the International Golf Club. You'll save thousands with member discounts on the top brand equipment, Ping, Tommy Armour, Titleist, and more. Plus, you'll get worldwide golf excursions and tournaments, the finest courses, and a quarterly newsletter. Call today and receive complimentary golf gifts worth $175, including a Rush Limbaugh golf bag tag. Annual dues $129. Great golf. Call 800-224-7888.
This is a special announcement. Orman's Furniture and Appliances is the largest independent GE and Amana dealer in Wayne and Johnston counties. Because of this, we must sell volume, bringing you the lowest prices in town. Now Orman's would like to become one of the largest furniture outlets. To accomplish this, we must lower prices. This change will be effective immediately. Prices have been lowered on name brands such as Bassett, Broyhill, Lane, Brookline, American Drew, and Simmons Bedding. Here's one example. 6-piece all-wood dining room suite for only $399 with table and 5 chairs. Orman's is offering no high-pressure sales pitch, no frills, no tricks, just one low price. If our price is not the lowest, we will pay you for your trouble for finding it elsewhere. Ask a salesperson for details. These prices will be offered from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Saturday. Cash, checks, Visa, and MasterCard are accepted. Financing is available. Shop Orman's newest location at 1204 North Berkeley in Goldsboro and Orman's in Smithville, Selma, Highway 301 and Orman's Plaza.
Recently, Precision Tune introduced a revolutionary new process called Sludge Away. Bill Waters, your precision mechanic, has an update on customer reaction.
Since we introduced Sludge Away in November, we have done over 3,000 Sludge Aways, and I am more excited about what it does for the customer's engine than I was in November. I have asked many people that have had a Sludge Away, did you see any difference in the way the vehicle performed? Most of them will say it doesn't seem to be as noisy, the oil pressure goes up, performance of the engine is better. That's what excites me when I see an older car that's sludged up, that you see it performing so much better and the owner's eyes just light up.
Sludge Away cleans your car's arteries, makes it run better.
It's $59.90 plus the oil change, and you can get it exclusively at any Precision Tune in North Carolina. If you'd like to keep your engine forever, do a Sludge Away once a year.
Capitol Hill Post Office, over 100 years of service.
Yeah, I remember my first day behind the counter of the Capitol Hill Post Office. It's something I'll never forget.
Well, hello there, Mr. Congressman. Is there anything I can help you with there?
Well, yes, son. I need a couple of them there first-class stamps.
Okay. Is that all, sir?
No. Can you cash this check for $1,000?
Boy, sir, I don't know. I don't think
now,
so.
trust me, son, you can. You see, it's just the way we do things up here on the Hill. Oh, sure, the congressmen have come and gone, and I've retired, but some things remain the same.
Well, hello there, Mr. Congressman. Is there anything I can help you with there?
Yeah, check my mailbox.
Okay. Oh, just a check statement from your bank, sir.
What check statement?
Yes, sir. I'll just tear this up right away.
Good kid. Hey, I need some postage stamps, just one.
Okay, that'll be 29 cents.
Here's a constituent's check for $5,000.
And here's your change. Thanks, Congressman.
And kid, you keep that stamp.
Hey, thanks.
That way, if I'm indicted, he's my accomplice. Bye-bye. Yes, sir. I guess it's true what they say about congressmen in the Capitol Hill Post Office. Neither inquiry, nor bribes, nor abuses of power shall keep our appointed leaders from making their rounds.
The Capitol Hill Post Office, another special privilege institution.
Bob Dornan sitting in for the incomparable Rush Limbaugh. And again, that spot hits closer to home than most comedic material hitting around out there on the airwaves today. Larry Kudlow, our guest. Larry, the senior director at Bear Stearns. Larry, what's your today's take on the massive tax bill?
Well, I think it's a dreadful idea. Both the theory and the logic and the practicality of it is all wrong. I mean, we're going to repeat the mistakes made in 1990, which was allegedly a $500 billion deficit reduction package, which was top-heavy with tax hikes and had very few spending restraints and very weak enforcement provisions. And what we got out of that was a recession. The upper-income people and the so-called luxury sales tax people did not pay taxes. Instead, we put people out of work. We depressed the economy. The deficit grew larger, and the revenues never came in. And I think one of the reasons we're in a rather slow recovery right now is the lingering effects of that 1990 bill. So my point is a simple one, a practical one. We need only look at recent economic history to show that we're going in the wrong direction on the current new 1993 tax hike.
Well, one of the things that Rush Limbaugh, the regular host, creator of this phenomenal show, is on his TV show and here, he has compared the similarities between George Bush, President Bush, and Clinton, and the similarities of the dialogue of the leaders in the House, George Mitchell in the Senate, Dick Gephardt and Tom Foley in the House, in defending that fall of 1990, at the very moment that Saddam Hussein was occupying Kuwait and torturing people to death. They were defending in precisely the exact language the very deal that destroyed the Bush presidency. As good a man as he is, and as he went into that with the best of intentions to try and discipline an out-of-control Congress, I don't understand for the life of me, do you, Larry, why Clinton is walking in the same footprints?
Well, it's an odd story, really. I mean, there seems to be more ideology here than practical economics. Going after, quote, rich people, which is something a lot of countries in Eastern Europe and Western Europe have tried unsuccessfully, is really way outside the American tradition. In many respects, this is the most radical change in tax policy we've seen since the Second World War. Factually, you may recall, the top income tax rate has drifted lower for 45 or 50 years from a 90% post-war high to a 28% post-war low. That was as recent as 1986. Now, Americans and economists and others are very proud to note that over that long span, our economy has grown through good times and bad, on average, by 3% in real terms. A very enviable record for a large industrial nation. But one of the reasons is because we've lowered the burden of the income tax, and we've provided people with better rewards for work effort, for production, for productivity, and saving and investment. The income tax affects almost all working people through, of course, the withholding provision. Now, if we're going to reverse the income tax and move it from 28% to really a top rate of 43% if we include the elimination of the health care cap, that is a huge increase. It's the major reversal. And frankly, my concern, longer run, it's going to threaten American prosperity in the next 5 to 10 years. And we risk flight capital. I mean, we're repeating mistakes not only made in 1990, but mistakes that a lot of other countries have made down through the years. And I don't see why.
We've only got about 30 seconds. I don't want to hold you over this long break. What would you tell hardworking Americans who are trying to invest their money? It's sad to do it in 20 seconds, but what would you tell them to do during the next year?
Well, my view here is right now in late July, they should contact all their elected officials and in no uncertain terms tell them that this tax bill has got to be defeated.
You got it. That's good enough, Larry. Thanks for visiting with us. I want to do it again soon. We'll be right back after these important words.
Hello, you people. Rush Limbaugh here. You know, it's alarming but true. People do judge you by the words you use. When you speak well, you command respect. You move ahead faster. Verbal Advantage, Achievement Dynamics' best-selling audio cassette word power program, will give you the words you need to communicate with confidence and flair. And with Verbal Advantage, all you have to do is listen. To learn more, call now, 1-800-28-TAPES. That's 800-28-TAPES.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley reporting WGBR News. Employees of Wayne Community College will have a new administrative organizational structure on Monday, August 2nd. College President Dr. Edward H. Wilson said the end result should be a better system for communications, access to decision makers, and involvement in the decision-making process. The new arrangement has individuals who are in supervisory roles reporting to Dr. Wilson, and those who report to supervisors pursuing more closely related objectives. Dr. Wilson said the college has been understaffed in administration for years, so it needs to utilize administrators as effectively as possible. The three major functions of the college are curriculum programs, services to business and industry, and basic skills. These functions under reorganization will report directly to the president, with Shirley Boyd, Greg Smith, and Jimmy Ford as the key players. The recent employment of Thomas D. Luton as Vice President for Student Development Services and Chuck Audit as newly named Director of Personnel and Auxiliary Services has brought two new players onto the team. And Dr. Wilson said already they've contributed to the college's effectiveness. The organizational retooling is a further step toward improving the college's overall functions. Residents in the area of property of Mrs. Elma L. Lofton on South John Street at Wayne Avenue did not object to plans to build apartments on that site at last night's public hearing before the Goldsboro City Council, but they recommended that a special use be included in the change of zone from an Industrial 5 to a Residential 9 classification. Councilman Fred Lutz said the residents wanted the special use attached so they would be sure what would go there. City Attorney Harold Everett Jr. said only the change of zone was before the council, and the property owner has to request a special use permit before the council can consider that. It was explained that virtually anything can go on the property under its current I-5 zoning, including a junkyard. But under the proposed Residential 9 zoning, construction would be limited to about 16 apartments. Block Association Representative Percy White said residents were not in conflict with Mrs. Lofton. Mrs. Lofton said she's not planning 16 apartment units. Instead, she's considering some apartments under one roof. She told the council nobody had to come to her about the matter and said she had the same concerns of others present because she lives on that street. And last night, the Goldsboro City Council accepted the deed to the old National Guard Armory and will hold and maintain the 9-acre site and buildings until the city and county decide what disposition will be made of those properties. That's an update of WGBR News. I'm Wayne Alley.
The risk of rain is rather slim at this point. We don't expect much in the way of thunderstorms today. There probably will be one or two floating around out there later, and if you get one, it can still give you heavy rains and dangerous lightning and strong winds. However, there just won't be very many going around. Otherwise, a lot of sunshine today. Hot and muggy, too. Highs up in the low to mid-90s. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the low to mid-70s. Tomorrow, more sunshine and low and mid-90s again. I'm Bill Schmidt at the Weather Center.
Hi, this is Rush Limbaugh on your first information source, 1150 WGBR.
One, servicemen and women will be judged based on their conduct, not their sexual orientation.
Hi, it's Bob Dornan here, sitting in for Rush Limbaugh. Came across an editorial in the in the U.S. News and World Report, well, it would be the issue that went stale yesterday. This from last week, although it's dated July 19th. And it uses the Hippocratic Oath that doctors seem to have dumped as advice to Clinton on the economy, and it would certainly sync up with everything that Larry Kudlow just said. First, do no harm. And that's good advice to any president when they're playing around with the economy of this country. The federal government controls about 23% of every dollar in this country. And if they all had on their desk a little sign next to the old Harry Truman, the buck stops here, also a little sign that said from the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm to the dollar either. Okay, let me give the phone numbers here. 1-800, our nickel. 1-800-282-2882. 282-2882 to get to the Rush Limbaugh Show. Now, let me give you the ground rules. Rush's ground rule is always to put a cellular car phone up front, because you drive from one cell to another, and if you're going the legal speed limit, within minutes you can suddenly have a scratchy connection. But number two that we implemented yesterday, and I think Rush does this too, if you're in contention with anything Mr. Kudlow just said, with anything you think Walter Williams is going to say, and Professor Williams in the coming segments, or Bob Dole, or Kay Bailey Hutchinson that we're going to have on either today or tomorrow, with anything that one of our leaders in the House, Henry Hyde, said yesterday, if you are in contention with anything I say, or something that Rush said last week is burning in your body, then call in and we'll put you at the head of the list. We want to hear from all viewpoints here. So let's go to Mike on a car phone from Northville, Michigan.
It's a pleasure speaking to you, Congressman.
Mutual.
My bone of contention with the conservative movement, of which I consider myself a member, is that we have no leadership on a national level.
Agreed.
And I think we need an absolute magnifying glass kind of focus on term limitations, the kinds of things that from a constructive point of view, would put a real crimp in the size of government and its growth.
Well, I agree with you too quickly. The minority or Republican leader in the Senate is, by nature of the smaller membership of that House, only 100 members, he is, in truth, the titular head of the party in D.C. Now, why, I'm going to ask Bob Dole later, why wouldn't you consider Bob Dole a leader?
Why would I not consider him one?
Right.
Because my definition of a